Thank you. With that said, let's get to what we're going to be looking at today during Change Health. And we know health is important to all of us, which is why it's so important. Even in our worship, we want to dedicate a portion of that time to encourage each other. And a lot of us like foods that may not be good for us. And one of our goals here through this ministry is to take foods that may not necessarily be good for us and make them good, make them healthy so that we can be happy at the same time. And one of those things is fried foods. Well, we don't really fry a lot, but we can actually get the same effect through baking and sauteing and other things. So we're going to make some oven fried French fries. Yes, oven fried French fries. You will not have to use the stovetop. It's all going to be in the oven. So it prevents you from having to get those fried things in, but you still have the flavor for something like a French fry. So how are we going to make this? Well, first thing you're going to need some potatoes. And we got plenty of potatoes, so that's why this is going to work out for us. And we're just going to use one potato so that as you, again, multiply, whether you want to make some for yourself, for your family, or for a whole group, you would just add more potatoes to the recipe. So we're going to work with like one or two regular standard potatoes. Doesn't matter what kind. You want them to be washed, and you do not want them to be peeled. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So you want to have some regular baked potatoes that we're going to bake. As far as your seasonings are concerned, it's optional, but at the very least, you want to have some type of salt. We're going to use pink salt or pink Himalayan salt, garlic, and paprika. And what you're going to do between the garlic and the paprika, the garlic obviously is going to give you a little bit more of that enhanced flavor, whereas the paprika is going to make it taste a little smoky. So if you don't want that flavor, leave the paprika out. You're fine. But if you like that, go with it. And then your oil. Your oil is important. And the only oil that we're going to recommend for this particular recipe is olive oil, whether it's regular olive oil or extra virgin, either way, but just use olive oil. Why? You know, we're huge fans and we really try to advocate coconut oil, and we do. And you can even use it for this recipe. The only limitation between coconut oil and your olive oil is that the smoke point for the olive oil is much higher as opposed to the coconut oil. In other words, we're going to turn our oven right on now to 425, right? So if we're going to preheat the oven to 425, that's a high temperature. So if we use coconut oil, it's going to smoke. And we don't want that because obviously it's going to cause a problem, cause your alarms to go off. Trust me, I've learned the hard way. So when you have olive oil, the smoke point's higher, so you can use these high temperatures and you won't get the smoking out effect, but you'll get that same crispness on the fries, and it's still a relatively healthy oil compared to all the ones that we do not recommend. We're talking about vegetable oils, canola oils, all those refined and heavily refined oils. We do not want to use those. And those hydrogenated oils, absolutely not. They add that extra hydrogen into the oil so that it lasts longer on the shelf. Well, the problem is, even though it lasts longer on the shelf, when you eat that hydrogenated oil, whatever that oil might be, well, it's going to last long in your shelf. That's your heart, your arteries, in your body. And we don't want that. So we want an oil that's going to break down, and it's a good oil for us. That's why we recommend the olive oil. High smoke point, better for you. So we got all of our tools in place. Now we're going to get our potatoes together. Now, when we're getting the potatoes together, remember, we did not skin them. Why did we do that? Because God is so awesome that when he made the potato, he put the skin on the side to work as fiber. And then on the inside, that's where you've got your carbohydrate, the meat of the potato. Now, this is all just eventually, once you eat it in the body, it's all sugar. So to mitigate the breakdown of the carbohydrate, he wrapped it in fiber so that as the sugar goes into the body, the fiber is also breaking down. So it's delaying the release of the carbohydrate into the body. So that's why you want to get in the habit of eating your skins on your potatoes. One, for the fiber carbohydrate factor, but then the other reason is not only just because of the flavor, but you have also the vitamins and the nutrients in the potato, in the skin, that are not in the flesh or in the carb side. So that's why we want to leave the skins on our potatoes, and don't worry about them getting in the way, because there are two things we're going to do. We're going to blanch these potatoes and we're going to oil them. So what do we talk about blanching? We're going to cut up our potato. Remember, we're just making using one potato, and then you want to multiply that depending on how many you're making for. So I got my potatoes here, and you can either make wedges, which are the fat or wide ones, or you can even do the shoestring. The biggest difference is your preference, but as far as the cooking, Your cooking may be a little bit shorter because of the shoestring. It's less, potato to cook. So we're going to make some shoestrings because we're going to try and get as close to the ones that are most popular. Those are the ones that the big box fast food restaurants sell. So with this size potato, I'm making like slices of like 3 or 4, actually 4 or 5. And when I hold them up here in a second, you'll be able to see them shoestringed out. All right, so we've got our potatoes shoestringed here. All right, so that's what we're looking for with the potato. Now we're going to blanch them. Well, how do you blanch a potato? This is when you take your potato and we're going to put it in our bowl here, and then we're going to add water to the bowl, and we're going to let the potato soak. Now, why in the world would we do this? Well, it has nothing to do with helping the potato cook or anything like that. It's really about the texture or flavor that you like your potatoes. Some people, when they eat their potatoes, they want them to crunch. They like that crisp factor. Well, in order to do that, you want to get some of the moisture out of the potato. And in this case, because it's a big old starch, it actually extracts some of the starch out. And that's what blanching does. So that's basically just soaking your sliced potato. And I've read some people do it for 10 minutes, some people do it for an hour. So if you want to fall in the middle, say for 30 minutes, fine. If you're in a rush, you're ready to eat, you want to get it going, 10 minutes is fine. So if you do about a half hour, if you have a long time, you just want to get it ready earlier in the day and you want to let them soak, you can let them soak too. So it's really up to you. So we'll just say about a half hour, 20 to 30 minutes, and you'll let these soak. Once you've let them soak, if I had a pot or a little bowl here that was already soaking, you'd see some of that starch gathered down on the bottom. So some of y'all who are vegan out there have seen like the energy replacer, that yellow box where it has the powder that you use to replace your eggs. That's all that is. It's just starch. And so you'll actually see the starch leach out of the potato, and they took that, dried it out, put it in a bag, and sell it to you and to me. So if you want to, you can use it as your own starch, but we've found easier replacements, right? We showed you how to make it with flaxseed. And so you don't have to really go that route, and it's much less expensive. So if you want to watch that video, I'll be sure to add that to the description below too, to watch that video on how to make your own flaxseed egg. All right, so now that we've got our potatoes, we're going to fast forward, pretending that we fast forwarded 20 or 30 minutes, and we let these blanch. Now, when we go to prepare them to get them ready to bake, you want to dry them off. In order to do that, you want to take your potato and you want to drain the water, again, 20, 30, 60 minutes later, whenever the case might be, and you want to get yourself a towel. So if you want to use a clean dish towel, or if you even want to use a clean tea towel, whatever you call them, we call them different things in our homes, it'll work just fine. But you want to get them dry as possible. So now we're going to take our potatoes that we're blanching, and we're going to just pat them dry. Praise the Lord. You don't have to sit there one by one, dry off the potato, but it is much easier to do it this way. And we're going to set them over here to the side. This is a fun thing to do too. If you got some little ones or some young people around you trying to teach them how to chef it up, this is an easy job for them to do. Drain out the water, and then you want to dry off the blanched potato. So now the potato's been blanched, and what you'll notice is if you had let it sit there, it's going to be a little bit firmer. So you don't end up with soggy potatoes. I don't think anybody really likes soggy potatoes. Just in that short amount of time, the few minutes that we had, you look there, I don't know if you can see here on the bottom, but on the bottom of the bowl, what I'm moving, that's starch. So just that quick, in like 2 or 3 minutes, the starch actually leached to the bottom. So that's how cool blanching is to make those crispy fries. So I'm gonna rinse this out, and now I'm gonna dry this out because we're trying to avoid moisture, right? And so that's why I'm just drying out the stuff because we want a crispy potato, all right? So we're gonna take our potato that's been dried after it was blanched, and now we're going to go ahead and get them prepped for the tray. And it's simple to do. I don't really like to give precise measurements on this because everybody has a different, kind of idea of what they want. You do want to put some oil on. Some will say, well, can you just leave all the oil off? You could do that, but what will happen is there's nothing to fry, in this case, baking our potato. So it would just dry out the potato, kind of have a gummy or starchy texture. So adding the oil helps kind of give that coating to create that crunchy shell on the outside, but then you got that soft, chewy potato on the inside. So think of it this way. If you got a smaller potato, these are smaller potatoes, right? And then you have larger potatoes, kind of think about like a teaspoon of oil for every 2 potatoes. So like a 1-to-2 ratio. So if you were going to, measure it out, oil, then I got 2 potatoes, you could do that. I prefer to be less stressful, and you can kind of wing it a little bit more. You want to drizzle your potatoes. What do you mean drizzle? Just like when it's raining outside and it's drizzling. It's not raining, just a little drizzle, right? So when we're drizzling our potatoes, we're going to drizzle the oil and kind of make like a line fashion that looks like this. And then we're done. So it's like a line fashion. So kind of like when you sometimes make a deli sandwich, and you kind of drizzle like that. So we're going to just drizzle this with a little oil. The goal here, I don't want so much oil that I drizzle that there's oil on the bottom, because that's oil on the bottom, not oil on our potato. That's when you put too much. But if you don't see the oil and can't coat your French fry, then you didn't put enough. So that's why we're just going to say how much oil? Drizzle to desire. All right. And then we're going to take our salt. Again, salt to taste. I usually want to go for about, a few pinches if you're using some pink Himalayan. Then when it comes to the garlic, you can just lay it on there. You can't have too much. So you can put that garlic on there. And you can't have too much because you have so much that it starts to burn on the bottom of the pan. You don't want that. Then when it comes to our paprika, same situation. Just want enough to see it. And really the cool thing about the paprika is, this is how we're looking here. When I go to mix, we're just going to hand mix. All I'm trying to do is to coat the potato to get it ready for the quote unquote fry. But we're baking, so this is great. So if you're trying to watch your fat content and make sure you're eating and not eating those fatty food, those fried foods, you can do that with a simple baked French fry. All right, so now what I've done here, just with this hand mix, if you can catch that, I've just got the paprika over all the potatoes, so they look reddened all over. Okay, and so now that I've got them coated, I'm good to go. I've got them coated. I can add more oil if it doesn't quite seem like it's enough on there. Again, think about a teaspoon of oil for every 2 potatoes. So you can multiply or deduct that, as you will, but you got to put oil on there. That is key, because that's how you're going to get that fry effect. So now we're going to go ahead. We got our coated French fry. I actually, you know what? I'm looking at these. I was trying to be conservative, but I want to make sure we get a nice crisp on here. So you can always go back. All right. So now I got a nice smell going here. I'm smelling the garlic. I'm feeling the oil on the potato. So I know it's coated. It's going to give me that nice crisp. Don't have to put any batter or anything on it. Just a little olive oil, a little seasoning, and you're done. So all right, now we're going to take our cookie sheet, get it prepped. Now, some of you just use the regular cookie sheet. No problem. You can do that. But it's a lot easier. Life is a lot lovelier with some good old parchment paper. Because what this parchment paper is going to do, it's not only going to allow our fries to fry up, but then when it comes to cleanup, you're going to have a lot less of it. Because you blanch the potato, there is some water in there. And you're going to see that come out during the baking process because it's heating up. If you don't have parchment paper, you are going to get that stick even on a non-stick cookie sheet like this one here. So that's why we really recommend make that investment in that parchment paper, and it will save you a lot of time and even money on the long run, because it'll let your cookie sheet last longer. Even though that may cost some, it's going to cost a little more to get this cookie sheet over time. So now when we layer them, one thing about French fries is that when you are cooking them, especially if you want to get that crisp factor, you don't want them to be bunched up on top of each other. Because what happens is when the heat gets into the ones on the bottom, it starts steaming instead of baking the ones that are on the top. We don't want them steamed. We want them oven fried. So to oven fry them, you want to go ahead and make sure that your fries, your fries, if you're baking fries, please text us because we got to talk. All right. But you want to make sure your fries are flat like this. So now, again, if you had 2 or 3 on here, it's going to get crowded. That's okay if they touch and they crowd, but try not to let them stack up. It's okay if you get a little stackage, but it's just going to take longer when it comes time to cook them, because when you want to cook them, you want to cook these for about 12 minutes, go back in, flip them over, flipping them around, give them another 12 minutes. So you're looking at anywhere from about 20 to 25 minutes before you got your own French fries. We eat these, enjoy these so much more than the ones that you can buy in a fast food joint. Now, every now and then, When we're out on the road, that's the only time we'll go and get some regular fries because one, these are healthier, and two, those cost so much more. You think about getting a 10-pound bag of potatoes for like $3 or $4. You're going to get a cup of potatoes for maybe $2 from a fast food restaurant. So this is much more economical. It's much healthier for you, and you're only 24 minutes away from French fry heaven. So, so that's how you make oven fried French fries. We're going to let those work. We're going to put our timer on here for 12 minutes. And what we're going to do is hopefully, by God's grace, we'll see how they turned out at the end of our time together. So if you have been giving up fried foods, praise the Lord. That's good. But now you can replace them with smart fried foods that you're actually baking in the oven. So the same principles apply. Maybe we'll do a Change Health talking about how to saute as opposed to fry food. So that you're cutting down on those bad fats, you're increasing those good fats, and you're eating healthy and happy food. So we're going to let those go ahead and bake. And in the meantime, we're going to move on in our worship.